You know, taking a beloved classic JRPG and modernizing it is a genuine art form. And thankfully, over the years, we've gotten some amazing remakes and remasters. And that's absolutely what I'm talking about in this video. Also, please note, this list is in no specific order. I'm not ranking these, okay? These are just 15 games, not top 15 games. As always, I'm Daniel, and today, the 15 JRPG remakes and remasters you absolutely shouldn't miss. So, starting off at number 15 is Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. Now, this is the only upcoming JRPG on this list, but I didn't really want to omit it because it's coming out very soon, and from everything I've seen, it kind of looks great. This package bundles together the first two Dragon Quest games, the absolute bedrock of all JRPGs. In the first game, you're the descendant of the legendary hero Erdrick, and your job is to save the land of Alefgard from the evil Dragon Lord. Pretty classic stuff. Then, Dragon Quest II picks up 100 years later, and you're leading a new generation of Erdrick's descendants against an evil high priest named Hargon. Now, the reason this is on the list is because this is a full-on remake in the HD 2D style that Square Enix has pretty much perfected with games like Octopath Traveler. The pixel art is gorgeous, the environments have this beautiful 3D depth to them, and it just brings this ancient world to life in a way that feels both new and completely faithful. They're adding a ton of new stuffs too. We're talking new story elements to better connect the games to the Dragon Quest III remake, new dungeons, new items. Even the battle system in the first game has been updated so you can fight multiple enemies at once instead of just, the original one-on-one duels. It's a massive upgrade. They're taking these foundational kind of bare bones games and giving them the epic presentation they always deserved. It really looks like the definitive way to experience the start of the entire Erdrick trilogy. So we'll find out more when Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake drops on October 30th this year, of course, for all platforms, PlayStation 5, Switch, Xbox Series, and PC. And before we proceed, I notice a lot of y'all aren't subscribed yet. Please, if you love what I do, if you love contents like this, please make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. It helps a ton. Up at number 14 is The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky first chapter. So, the story follows Estelle Bright and her adopted brother Joshua. They're just starting out as members of the Bracer Guild. Think of them as a kind of freelance force for good, helping people with problems big and small across the kingdom of Liberal. Their journey to become senior bracers starts out all bright and optimistic, but they slowly uncover a massive dark conspiracy bubbling just beneath the surface of the nation's politics. Now, the world building is the stuff of legend. Seriously, Falcom, the developer, is meticulous. Every single NPC has a story, and their dialogue changes constantly as the plot moves forward. It makes the world of Zemuria feel so incredibly alive and real. The combat is like a hybrid system. On the main field, it's all action. You see the enemies, you can run around them, you can try to avoid them, you can even strike them from behind to initiate the battle with a massive advantage. That's the action part. But once you make contact, the game transitions to a separate battle screen and it becomes a deep, turn-based tactical RPG. The battlefield is a grid. Your turn order is displayed on the side, and when it's your character's turn, you have to think about everything. Where you move on the grid, who you target, which craft or art to use. It's honestly strategic. You're lining up area of effect spells, using character skills to delay enemies. It's very tactical. And then you have the S-crafts, these ultimate moves that can be used at any time as long as your meter is full, completely interrupting the turn order to save you in a pinch. It's this blend, the real-time engagement on the field, flowing into the methodical turn-based strategy in the battle that makes it so compelling. It's honestly a fantastic way to experience this, and most importantly, the perfect start to one of the most beloved and well-written JRPG sagas ever made. So up next at number 13, we have Star Ocean: The Second Story R.
This is how you take an absolute gem from the PS1 era and make it shine for a modern audience without losing a single ounce of its original charm. Right at the start, you choose between two protagonists. You can play as Claude C. Kenny, who's this young Space Federation officer who gets accidentally teleported to an undeveloped medieval-style planet called Expel. Or you can play as Rena Lanford, a young girl living on that planet who has mysterious healing powers and believes Claude is the legendary hero meant to save their world. Your choice completely changes your perspective on the story, who you can recruit, and the events you see. It was ambitious back then, and it was ambitious back then and still incredible now. The first thing you notice is that it looks so much like Octopath Traveler 2. You get these beautiful pre-rendered 3D environments, but with these absolutely gorgeous 2D pixel art characters running around in them. It's this stunning blend of old and new that works, making it honestly one of the best-looking JRPGs out there. It's real-time, super fast-paced, and flashy as all hell, but this remake adds a crucial new mechanic called Break. As you attack enemies, you whittle down their shields, and when they break, they become stunned and take massive damage. It adds a whole new layer of strategy, making you coordinate with your party, timing your skills to break the enemy at the perfect moment, and then just unleashing everything you've got. It's so satisfying. On top of all that, they just packed it with quality of life improvements. The music's been reorchestrated by the original composer, there's new voice acting, the crafting system is deep as ever, everything is better. There's the private action system, where you can split up your party in towns to see unique character interactions, which in turn affects their relationships and the ending you get. There are like dozens of endings. The replayability is just off the charts. Seriously, Star Ocean Second Story R is one of the best JRPGs you can play right now. Even forget the remake or remaster, whatever, because the original game was still a masterpiece.
So at number 12 is Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. Now this one's a bit of an oddball in the Fire Emblem series. For those who don't know, this is a full-on ground-up remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, a super old Famicom game from 1992 that never even made it out of Japan officially. The story follows two main characters, two childhood friends named Alm and Celica. They get separated by fate and war, and they end up leading two separate armies on the continent of Valentia. You play both of their campaigns simultaneously, swapping between them on the world map. Alm's journey is a very grounded, grassroots military campaign rising up against a corrupt nobility. Meanwhile, Celica is on a much more mystical pilgrimage to find out why the gods have seemingly abandoned the land. The gameplay is where it gets really interesting and different from the rest of the series. The core is still that top-down, grid-based, high-stakes tactical combat, and yes, classic mode with permadeath is absolutely there to make you sweat over every single move. But then, Echoes adds fully explorable 3D towns and dungeons. You're actually running around talking to NPCs, finding items, and when you touch an enemy in a dungeon, it transitions seamlessly into a classic tactical battle. It's this brilliant hybrid of a traditional JRPG and a strategy game that feels so unique. They also stayed faithful to the weirdness of the original Gaiden. The weapon triangle, the whole swords beat axes, axes beat lances thing, is gone. It's not in this game. Mages cast spells by sacrificing their own HP, which makes them these glass cannons. It changes your strategic approach. It forces you to unlearn some of your core Fire Emblem habits. Also, it has some of the best production values on the entire 3DS. We're talking full voice acting for pretty much every line of dialogue, a gorgeous art style, and a very great soundtrack. They took one of the most obscure and, let's be honest, archaic games in the franchise and turned it into an absolute modern masterpiece.
So what we have at number 11 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This is the second chapter in the ambitious Remake trilogy, and it had the monumental task of taking the party out of the confines of Midgar and into the wide open world. The story picks up right after the end of Remake. Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Barret, and Red, they've defied fate, they've escaped the city, and now their real journey begins to track down Sephiroth across the planet. This is the part of the original game that so many of us remember with just pure nostalgia. Getting the Chocobos, visiting Junon, the Gold Saucer, all of it. And the gameplay completely reflects this newfound freedom.
The biggest, most immediate change from Remake is that you're not in linear corridors anymore, just like I said before. You step out into massive, beautiful, explorable zones. The grasslands, the Junon region, Coral, they are huge. And just getting on your chocobo for the first time and running across that open field with that classic music swelling is honestly just pure magic. It's still that brilliant hybrid of fast-paced action and strategic menu-based ATB commands. You've also got Synergy system. You can now execute special tag team attacks and abilities with your party members. It makes the combat feel so much more collaborative and dynamic, making it not just you controlling 3 separate characters anymore. You're controlling a team that fights and works together. It's a genius way to mechanically represent the bonds that the characters are forming in the story. And the game is just stuffed with things to do. There's an entire in-depth card game called Queen's Blood that is so good it could honestly be its own standalone release. I probably spent a solid 10 hours just playing that. You've got chocobo racing, world intel to discover for Chadley, legendary monsters to hunt. You see a whole lot of things. Rebirth takes what was in the original maybe a 15-hour stretch of gameplay and expands it into this epic 80+ hour journey. And then of course, there's the story. The character moments, and that moment at the Forgotten Capital. They knew everyone was waiting for it, and the way they handled it is bold. Look, Rebirth had impossible expectations to live up to, and somehow it met them.
At number 10, we have Nier Replicant Remaster. The premise is that you're a young man in a sort of post-apocalyptic, rustic world, and your little sister, Yona, is dying from an incurable disease called the Black Scrawl. Your entire motivation, your whole life, is about finding a cure for her. Along the way, you team up with a sarcastic, floating magical book named Grimoire Weiss, and a whole cast of unforgettable, tragic characters as you fight these shadowy creatures called Shades. Now, the story, the music, the atmosphere of the original was always a 10 out of 10. It's one of the most poignant and devastating narratives you'll ever find. But the combat was really janky. It was floaty and unsatisfying, and I feel like that was basically the main purpose of this remaster. It was rebuilt from the ground up with help from developers at Toy Logic who worked on Nier Automata, and the difference is night and day. The combat is now fast, it's fluid, it's responsive, you're zipping around, pulling off combos, and weaving in these powerful magic spells from Grimoire Weiss. It finally feels as good to play as Automata, which is the highest praise I can give it. And because it's a Yoko Taro game, the game is not over when you see the credits for the first time. You have to play through it multiple times to get the full story, with each subsequent playthrough recontextualizing everything you thought you knew, adding new scenes, and just twisting the knife deeper and deeper. And this version adds a brand new story segment and a new ending, Ending E, that is absolutely essential for fans of the series and directly ties into Automata. They re-recorded the entire soundtrack, which is, by the way, one of the best soundtracks. Of course, the voice acting is all new, the graphics are a massive improvement. It's just a beautiful, tragic, and utterly unforgettable experience that can now finally be recommended to everyone without any caveats.
Coming in at number 9 is the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. For the longest time, JRPG fans were in limbo after that delay, but Konami came through and they delivered a collection that absolutely does justice to 2 of the most legendary RPGs to ever grace the PS1. So the core of both games is the 108 Stars of Destiny. Your main goal, outside of the main plot, is to recruit 108 unique characters to join your cause and build up your home base. You find everyone from powerful mages and warriors to cooks, blacksmiths, and even elevator operators. Seeing your castle grow from an empty shell into a thriving community is still one of the most rewarding experiences. The first game tells the story of Tyr McDole, son of an imperial general who gets tangled up with a cursed true rune and ends up leading a rebellion against the very empire he grew up in. It's a fantastic story. But then there's Suikoden 2, which is an epic, heartbreaking tale of 2 best friends, the hero and Joey, who get caught on opposite sides of a brutal, politically charged war. HD Remaster did exactly what it needed to do. They didn't mess with the core magic. The biggest and best change is the visual overhaul. They kept the gorgeous pixel art spreads, but completely redrew all the backgrounds and environments, and it looks stunning. They also added a ton of quality of life features that just make playing it so much smoother now. Auto battle function, the ability to speed up combat, a dialogue log so you don't miss anything, all the modern touches you'd want. And like, they even cleaned up the original English translations, which was a notorious issue, especially for Suikoden 2. They took two perfect games and just made them more accessible. This is without a doubt the definitive way to play these classics. If you've never experienced Suikoden, now this is your chance to see why it's such a legend.
At number 8 is Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age. This is what I'd call a vindication. When this game first came out on the PS2, it was pretty divisive. A lot of people just didn't vibe with its gameplay systems. Set in the gorgeous world of Ivalice, you might know it from Final Fantasy Tactics, it's this very political, mature story about war and power. You start off as Van, a street kid in an occupied city, but you quickly get swept up in a massive conflict involving a deposed princess, a disgraced knight, and a charming duo of sky pirates, Bolthier and Fran. Honestly, Bolthier's the real leading man here. We all know it. You've got the Gambit system. It's basically a party AI programming system. You set up a list of rules for your characters. For example, for your healer, you'd set a rule like, if ally HP is less than 30%, cast Karaja. Or for your tank, if foe is targeting self, use Decoy. You can get incredibly complex with it. At first, it feels like you're not even playing the game, but when you understand it, you're setting the strategy, and it is so unbelievably satisfying to create a perfect set of gambits and just watch your party flawlessly dismantle a tough boss without you even touching the whole thing. It was ahead of its time. Now, the Zodiac Age takes this a step further by completely overhauling the character progression. The original game had one giant license board for everyone, so they could all end up feeling the same. This version uses the Zodiac job system, which was from a version previously only released in Japan. It introduces 12 classic Final Fantasy jobs. The Zodiac Age lets you assign 2 jobs to each character. Plus, they added a speed up button. You can play at double or even quadruple speed, which turns what used to be a bit of a grind into an absolute breeze. It makes exploring the massive, beautiful world so much more enjoyable. The Zodiac Age fundamentally improves the original in every conceivable way, transforming a misunderstood classic into an undeniable masterpiece. So up at number 7 is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. And if ever there was a game that deserved a second chance to reach a massive audience, it was this one. The world is set on the frozen bodies of dead titans, the Bionis and the Mechonis, locked in an eternal battle. The organic life of Bionis is under constant attack from the Mechon, a race of unfeeling machines from the other titan. You play as Shulk, a young researcher who discovers he can wield the Monado, a legendary sword that is the only thing capable of damaging the Mechon. Now, the gameplay is this fantastic blend of exploration and a unique combat system. The world is vast, which is one of the biggest out there. Your characters auto-attack, and you position them to use special abilities called arts that work on cooldowns. The Monado gives you these quick visions in the middle of a fight, showing you an enemy attack moments before it happens. You then have a small window to change the future, warn a party member, use a Monado art to shield them, or try to stun the enemy. It makes every battle, especially boss fights, feel incredibly dynamic and strategic. So what makes this the definitive edition? Well, first and foremost is the visuals. The original was on the Wii, and it was kind of a blurry game. This version is a complete visual overhaul. The character models are brand new and look fantastic. And the environments are rendered in beautiful HD. And they added a ton of quality of life improvements that they make the game so much more playable, especially with the quest tracking.
And on top of all of that, they added a brand new epilogue story called Future Connected. It's like a solid 10-15 hours of new content that wraps up some loose ends. They didn't have to do that, but they did, which honestly, without no question, makes it the ultimate version of this great game.
Up at number 6, we've got Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster. Some games just define a console, and for a lot of people, Bravely Default was the 3DS JRPG. We all kind of gave up hope that it would ever get a proper modern release. The story starts off as this beautiful, warm, nostalgic love letter to classic Final Fantasy. You've got your 4 heroes, Tiz, a simple shepherd boy who's the sole survivor of a village that was swallowed by a giant chasm, Agnes, the duty-bound and slightly naive Vestal of Wind on a divine mission, Ringabel, this complete Casanova who has amnesia and a mysterious journal that seems to predict the future, and the fiery, strong-willed Edea, who defects from her own army to do what's right. They become the Warriors of Light, and their quest across the gorgeous world of Luxendark is to awaken 4 elemental crystals. It feels familiar, it feels cozy, and then the story just pulls the rug out from under you in a way that is legendary for a reason. This is pure turn-based perfection. It's like a credit card system for turns. On any character's turn, you can default to defend, which also banks an extra action point or BP for later, or you can brave. This lets you spend your banked points or even borrow up to 3 points from the future to unleash 4 actions all at once. So for example, if you're fighting a tough boss and you know it's about to unleash a massive party-wide attack, you can just default 3 times, tanking the hits, you're banking those turns, your BP counters at +3, then when the boss is open, you can just go all in, brave times 4. You unleash this insane flurry of attacks, maybe your healer tops everyone off and your 3 damage dealers just go to town. And that's before we even get to the asterisk system, the jobs. You've got over 20 jobs to collect, everything from classics like Knight and Black Mage to more unique stuff like the Vampire or the Spirit Master. The best part is you can set a main job and a sub job, letting you mix and match abilities to create insane builds. You can have a ninja who can also cast white magic, a pirate with the abilities of a merchant. The combinations are endless, and breaking the game with your perfect setup is half the fun. At number 5 is, of course, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. This is actually a prequel to the first 2 games. The story begins on your 16th birthday. You're the son or daughter of Ortega, a legendary hero who vanished while trying to defeat the archfiend Baramos. So the king basically looks at you and says, "All right, kid, your turn. Go finish the job." And from there, you set out on this massive world-spanning adventure. You don't get a preset cast of characters, you go to a tavern and you build your own party from scratch. You get to recruit 3 companions and you choose their name, their gender, and most importantly, their vocation. You want a classic party of a warrior, a priest, and a mage? You can. Or maybe martial artists. 3 martial artists and just punch your way through everything. Of course, you can do that too. At all Trades Abbey, you can change your character's vocations at any time. The genius part is they retain a portion of the spells and skills they learned in their previous job. So you can take that priest who's learned all the best healing spells and turn them into a brutal warrior. Now you have a frontline fighter who can fully heal themselves. The level of freedom it gives you is it was just unheard of back then. And honestly, it still holds up well. And now you take that legendary game and you give it the HD treatment, and it just looks perfect. It looks exactly how you remember it looking through the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia, but real. The pixel art is crisp, the world has depth and lighting. The spell effects are gorgeous. This is more than just a remake, honestly, because they took a masterpiece and made it timeless. Yep, at number 4, we've got Tactics Ogre Reborn. Denim Pavel, a young man whose life has been torn apart by a bitter civil war in the Valerian Isles. You, your sister Katia, and your best friend Vice you're just trying to survive and get revenge. But you're quickly thrust into a position of leadership, and you're forced to make choices that will have massive, branching consequences on the entire story. We're talking a full-on split into lawful, neutral, and chaotic routes that tell wildly different tales. There are no easy answers here. It's an isometric, grid-based affair where every single decision matters. Positioning, elevation, facing, it's all crucial. But Reborn is more than just a simple remaster of the already great PSP version. It is more of a reevaluation of the game's core systems. The old leveling system was a bit of a grind. You leveled up classes, not individual characters. Reborn scraps that for a much more modern, unit-based leveling system. There is a party level cap that rises as you progress through the story, which means you can't just grind your way out of a tough spot. You have to, actually use strategy. They also tweaked permadeath. In the original, when a character falls, and if you don't revive them in 3 turns, they're gone forever. Here, when they fall, a countdown starts, but if it runs out, they're just incapacitated and retreat from that battle. They're not lost for good, which definitely lowers the potential for frustration immensely, while still keeping the stakes high in every single fight. They did more things too. The presentation, everything is good. Voice acting for all the major scenes. They also added the World Tarot system, which lets you go back to pivotal moments in the story after you've beaten it to see the other paths, so you don't have to replay the entire 100-hour game from scratch. Reborn takes an undisputed, legendary masterpiece and makes it more playable, more accessible, and more emotionally resonant than ever before.
So up at number 3, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake. Remake covers the very beginning of the original story, the Midgar arc. You play as Cloud Strife, a brooding ex-soldier with a spiky haircut and a massive sword, working as a mercenary for a group of eco-terrorists called Avalanche. Their mission is to blow up a Mako reactor that is literally sucking the life out of the planet. Pretty much everyone watching this video already knows what the iconic story of Final Fantasy VII is all about, so let's just move on to the gameplay. The original was a classic turn-based JRPG, but this is a perfect hybrid system. In real time, you're running around, dodging, blocking, and slashing away like in a modern action game, but as you attack, you build your ATB gauge. Once a segment is full, you can press a button to enter tactical mode, and time slows down to a crawl. This is where the classic RPG comes back. You get a menu where you can strategically choose spells from your materia, use powerful character abilities, or use items. It's this brilliant fusion of fast-paced action and methodical strategic decision-making. And this whole experience is just Midgar. What was a 6 to 7 hour section in the original has been masterfully expanded into a full-length 30-plus hour RPG. They use that time to give so much depth to the world and its characters. Side characters from the original, like Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, are now fully realized, lovable characters with their own arcs. The city of Midgar itself feels alive. You talk to the people, you see the consequences of Shinra's actions. It gives the story so much more weight and impact, even though this might not be as fun to play as Rebirth. That said, this isn't a one-to-one retelling. It's doing something different. It's aware of the original game. It's in dialogue with it. The introduction of the Whispers, these arbiters of fate, it was a massive, bold choice that sets the stage for a trilogy that is both a loving remake and a fascinating sequel at the same time. Honestly, this is still one of the most appreciated remakes ever. Not just even in the JRPG genre, in gaming itself.
At number 2 is Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven. This is unlike almost any other JRPG, because you don't play as one hero. You play as an entire dynasty. You are the emperor or empress of the Kingdom of Avalon, and your mission, passed down through generations, is to defeat the 7 heroes, legendary figures who once saved the world, but have now returned as demons, bent on destroying it. When your emperor falls in battle after their life points run out, or after a significant time jump in the story, you have to choose an heir to the throne. This new heir inherits all the skills, the magic, and the stats that your previous generations have accumulated. You're like building a bloodline. The gameplay is what the series creator Akitoshi calls a free-form scenario. The game basically just throws you the keys to the kingdom and says, good luck. You have a throne room, and people come to you with problems from all over the world. You decide which quest to take on, which regions to conquer, and which of the 7 heroes to hunt down next. And you don't learn new skills by leveling up. No, that'd be too easy. You learn them in the heat of battle through the glimmer, whatever. A character will be using a sword, and then suddenly a little light bulb literally pops up over their head, and they unleash a brand new, more powerful sword technique, which is really unpredictable. This remake, Revenge of the Seven, takes that game and rebuilds it, similar to the fantastic Trials of Mana remake. It looks absolutely gorgeous. They even tweaked the battle system to be a bit more strategic, and just like most games on this list, this is a legendary game, finally made accessible to everyone.
And finally, at number 1 is, of course, Persona 3 Reload. We've talked about a lot of incredible remakes today, but this one is really special. You're a new transfer student at Gekkoukan High. You quickly discover that there's a hidden 25th hour of the day, the dark hour, where the world changes and monstrous shadows prey on the minds of the living. You awaken to the power of Persona and join Seize, a group of fellow students who fight back. And how do you summon your Persona? You do that by firing a gun-like object called an evoker at your own head, which is, as iconic as it is shocking. You go to school by day, you make friends, you join clubs, you work a part-time job, because doing that builds your social links, which is the core of the game. And then, at midnight, the school transforms into Tartarus, a colossal, ever-shifting labyrinth, and the game becomes a full-on dungeon crawler. The turn-based combat is slick, stylish, and built around exploiting enemy weaknesses to gain extra turns and unleash a devastating all-out attack. But what makes Reload the perfect remake is just everything, man. It has been completely rebuilt from the ground up in the style of Persona 5. The UI, the character models, the environments, it's a visual feast. The combat now has the shift mechanic, basically Persona 5's Baton Pass, which makes the flow of battle a million times better. Tartarus, which could be a real slog in the original, has been tweaked to be far more engaging. They've added tons of new story scenes and voiced social link events that flesh out the characters you love in ways the original never could. A lot of people talked about how it didn't have the answer epilogue from the Fez version at launch, but now with the expansion pass, the answer is here, making this package truly, finally complete. It is the definitive version of one of the most important JRPGs ever made. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and also turn on the notification. Lastly, don't forget to drink water and get some sun. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.